Then I thought of Shakespeare's line, the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. Very good line, you know. The thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. And of course, presumably inspired by God, he was able to put it like that, that we live in this physical world and are constantly receiving all kinds of shocks this way and that take it out of our bodies and our minds and our emotions. And so we do live in the midst of 1,000 natural shocks that we've inherited as human beings. And of course, what came home to me strongly was that it's absolutely the opposite of the way our Father wants us to enjoy our life here. And it came home to me how often we bring our own shocks upon ourselves and upon each other, and how we cause them for each other, and how we often lay strain on each other, so that the strain becomes so everyday to us that it almost becomes part of us. And we don't know why we're tense or strained. We don't know why we don't sleep well at night. We don't know why we find ourselves uptight at times. But of course it's because of all kinds of strains and stresses that we absorb and almost make part of ourselves. And they are so inherent, it seems, in us. They are so built into us that we can't recognize them. We cannot separate ourselves from them. They are part of us. And so we almost absorb a strain and stress. And of course, that's why the fellow's book was so good, None of These Diseases. Macmillan, I think, was his name, and it was very good because he would trace various circumstances that we pass through where someone lays some responsibility upon us or some extra burden upon us, and it causes the very veins in our body and the arteries in our body to tighten up and prevent the blood getting through to the heart. And he traced the various effects that different kinds of anxieties and worries have on our own body, so that they actually restrict the flow of blood and create strain in the muscles, which becomes just part of our body, part of us. So that there would be times when I would be lying down and I would think, why am I strained? And I suddenly become aware of a strain in part of my body that I never realized was there before. Now, as the years go by, I'm afraid that those become so much part of us that we cannot separate ourselves from them anymore. And in a way, that's part of what brings on age and all the wrinkles and the pains and the strains that we have. And I saw again that it's so opposite to what the Father has called us to, come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly of heart, and you shall find rest unto your souls. And I saw that that's right. That's what the Father has for us. And of course, that's our blessed privilege here, to learn to be a hospital for each other, a rest place for each other. I thought even of prayer time, how easy it is to come here and feel, well, we have a responsibility here, we'd better have at least a prayer time that has some life in it, and we'd better pray here. And of course, instead, God has called us to rest in Him and to relax in Him and to see quietly in His presence any of the ways in which we're not relaxing and resting in Him. And that's the heart, really, of what I felt God wanted to say to us, it's in 1 Thessalonians. And I have more that I think will be useful to say about it. But we should see that verse anyway, so that we all have a verse in our minds. 1 Thessalonians 5 and it's 18. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 18. And then I think it will enable me to say what I think God has given me to say. 1 Thessalonians 5 and 18, it's page 1031. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ for you. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. And that's the center of our life. Giving thanks in all circumstances. Why? For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Oh, it's God's will for me to give thanks? No. Give thanks in all circumstances, for you might say these are the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Give thanks in all circumstances, because these circumstances are exactly the ones that God has planned for you. Exactly. And of course it brings you back again to the truth that God has reconciled the world to himself. That he has looked at your life. He has seen the end of your life. He has seen the moment you'd, as they say, die, but as he says, go to sleep. He has seen the whole of your life, from the moment you awakened at your mother's side to the moment when you'll go to sleep at his side. He has seen that whole thing. He has seen where it varied from his will for you and how he would bring it back into his will for you. And then he has planned a life. He has reconciled that life to his own original plan for you. In the light of all the myriad people that will do things to you, all the myriad of mistakes that you will make, all the willful moves that you will take to get yourself out of his arms, he has seen all of those and he has reconciled them all. Great computer that he is, almost as good as our computers. And he has reconciled them all to himself. And he has it all planned. And that's why he says, give thanks in all circumstances. For this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. Give thanks for everything that happens, which is what one of the major marks of the saints was, that they took everything as from God. Everything as from God. And they thanked him for it. And it seems to me therein lies some of the key to our life together. We lay strains on each other. Irene's right. I lay strains that don't need to be laid on you. It is good to remind one another of responsibilities, but only as long as it's within the context of a joyful, restful, relaxed life. But really, we lay strains on each other. The gentlemen, of course, we gentlemen, there are things we don't see at all that you see. There are things that we lay on you ladies that we don't believe we're laying on you at all. And so there's need for a restful, peaceful, quiet, abiding before God in prayer for all of us. I could do this for myself, but it's easier to do it for Greg. It's always easier to do it for somebody else. But I will do it for myself. I think my girl often faces me in my enthusiastic way saying, oh yes, this is what we should do, and we do it, and it's not thoughtless, and it's often the right thing to do. But I say, okay, let's do it. Well, dear lover, what can she do but trail along with me in it? And she goes quietly, you know. So I know that, but I think Greg does it too. I think you do the same as I do. We have something that we think is vital, something to do at the computer, some work that we have to do on the sermons, and you think, well, that obviously ought to be done. So you whip off and do it, and the girl is left with extra work, which she wouldn't normally have, which she does courageously, as this girl does, as you do. You courageously rise to the thing because you love us dumb men. Nevertheless, it ends up laying strains on you ladies. I'm sure you do the same to us. I'm sure we do the same to each other. But that's part of the freedom that Jesus has to bring us into, where we really have a sensitive tenderness towards each other. And I would urge you ladies, as I would urge the gentlemen, where the other person doesn't see it, there's nothing to prevent you saying, dear, I don't know if you know that you're doing this to me, but here's what happens. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm willing to do this to the end of my days, but this is what happens. When you go off and you do this and leave that job to me, it's an extra thing that I have. You lay burdens. You don't know you do. But it comes naturally to you to do all the details of the reports that that have to be done for the road, you know. And you do them, I know, you do them often to please me. You often do them because you think they'll help me, because I've outlined some. So I outline some, then I outline some more, then I outline some more. Well, I've forgotten the ones we outlined back there, but she accumulates them. And so the reports become bigger and bigger and bigger, so that the girl is preoccupied with the reports, so you're all We do it without thinking. You don't mean to do it. I don't mean to do it. He doesn't mean to do it. She does. We don't mean to do it with each other. But we are gently laying burdens. Why I wanted this to go to Thailand is I'm sure that Mary has no problems with this at all. Absolutely none. But I thought it would be good for all of us to look at the possibilities and to be open to the fact that we may cause some of the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. We may be causing them to each other. And more than all of that, I thought back to the Philippian passage, you know. Rejoice in the Lord always. And how he's saying to us, look, I've fixed the whole thing. I've fixed it all. I've reconciled the world to myself. I've reconciled all your mistakes to myself. Your life just as laid out before you in my love for you. And all you have to do is live it joyfully. Rejoice in me always. Always rejoice in me. And I was joking with some of you a day or two ago because I thought my mother would say it that way, rejoice. I'll say it again, rejoice. And it's a bit what Paul is saying, rejoice in the Lord always. I'll say it again. Let your forbearance be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. The Lord is right here. Be forbearing. Accept what is coming your way. He is at hand. Have no anxiety about anything, but in everything, with prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God that passes all understanding will keep your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And then he goes on, you know, says, whatever is true and honorable and just, whatever is pure and lovely and gracious, think on these things. And that's what he has for us. Now we really have to, rest in Him to see all that, because you'll have taken it all in and probably agreed with what I've said. But now, to allow His Spirit to give you light about the 1,000 natural shocks that you bring upon yourselves, or that we bring upon ourselves. And see that it is not just a biblical phrase, It's not just a biblical phrase. Those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their youth, like the eagles. And the eagle, you remember, plucks out his old claws and his old feathers, and they grow new. And about 40 years of age, he becomes a new eagle. And you'll renew your youth like the eagles. You will run and not be weary. You'll walk and not faint. And that's what He has for us, So let's go for at least 107, and let's begin to rest now and help each other to rest, and allow Jesus to bring us into that peace where we rejoice. We rejoice. And I think I said Joanne, maybe, it is a command. It's a command. Let's pray.